You lie here in your bed, the day folding itself away, the air heavier, quieter now. You shift slightly beneath the blankets, the hum of the modern world thinning at the edges until only your own breathing remains. You are safe, at ease, cradled in the hush of night. The lights around you dim, and the world of today grows softer, less insistent. You feel yourself drifting, not into sleep just yet, but into another kind of space, a space where memory and imagination walk hand in hand, a space where human history, longer, older, vaster than anything you usually hold in mind, can unfold gently around you. There is no rush here, no need to hold on. You may fall asleep at any moment, and that is fine. The story will not vanish. It will wait, patiently, like embers glowing beneath ash. You do not need to finish it. You only need to begin. So let me ask you, softly, as you drift further inward, what does it mean to stand before fire before the first flame you did not make? To see it crackle in the distance, fearsome, alive, and to wonder if it is enemy or gift. And perhaps as you imagine that first spark, you smile faintly in the dark, because tonight the worst you risk is warm sheets, heavy eyelids, and the possibility that tomorrow you will not remember where you left this story. That too is part of the comfort. If quiet history like this helps you rest or wander, consider subscribing. It lets this small corner of calm keep growing, and if you're still awake, share your time and place below. I'd love to know who's listening tonight. Now take a breath and follow the smoke of the first fire. You are far back in time now, so far back that the continents are familiar yet strange. The horizon lies unbroken by roads or cities. There is no language you could recognize, no tools of metal, no written marks. The air itself feels different, heavier, rich with scents of damp earth and wild growth. You walk slowly across a plain. The grasses are tall, moving with the wind like a sea. The animals around you are both familiar and not. Great cats with longer teeth, elephants with curving tusks that sweep like ivory scythes, and birds the size of your chest that burst suddenly from the brush. It is dusk. The sun lowers, spilling gold that hardens into red, then fades into purple. And on that horizon, a flicker, a shimmer that does not belong to the sky. You stop. You listen. You wait. It is fire. Not yours. Not anyone's. Nature's fire, born of a lightning strike that licked the ground during a passing storm. The small tree burns, sending up a column of smoke. The air tastes sharp, dry, acrid. Your throat tightens at the smell. For millions of years, your kind, early hominins, have seen fire only at a distance. You do not yet know how to hold it, but you know it well enough to fear it. Fire moves like an animal, unpredictable, hungry. It leaps, it hisses, it roars. It devours what stands in its way. You stand still, body tense, ready to flee. Yet something holds you, because fire is not only terror, it is also light. It glows against the darkness. It warms the air in waves, and in its presence, animals scatter, hyenas slink away, lions retreat, snakes vanish into cracks. Fire clears a space around itself, a ring of sudden safety. You step closer, not too close, just enough to feel the heat prickle your skin. Your eyes sting, your ears catch the snap of burning branches. The sound is alive, constant, like breath but harsher, like speech but wordless. Imagine yourself as one of those early beings, Homo erectus perhaps, 2 million years ago. You do not call yourself that, of course. You do not call yourself anything at all. You live from day to day, finding roots to chew, bones to crack for marrow, fruit to pluck, meat when fortune allows. You know danger in every direction, predators, hunger, sudden storms, rivers that drown, cliffs that break bones. But here before this burning tree you meet a different kind of power. You cannot touch it. It burns your skin if you try. You cannot drink it or eat it. And yet you sense dimly, wordlessly, that it might hold something worth following. Night falls fully. The stars appear, their cold light scattered across the sky. The world around you darkens, except for this one place. The fire glows brighter against the night. Shadows leap across the ground. You settle nearby, just outside the circle of heat. The smell clings to your hair, your skin, your stomach growls with hunger. You have roots, perhaps, and scraps of meat. You bring them near, and notice how the fire changes them. The roots soften, their bitterness fading. The meat hisses, drips, smells richer, more inviting. You taste it, and find that it chews easier, taste fuller. You do not know it yet, but your very body will change over generations because of this. The jaws that once needed to grind raw food will shorten. The gut that once struggled with tough fibers will shrink, freeing energy for the brain. Fire will sculpt you, slowly and visibly, from within. But tonight you only feel the difference on your tongue. The fire dwindles as the night deepens. You do not know how to feed it. You do not know that dry wood sustains it, that embers can be carried, coaxed, guarded. For now you only watch as the flames shrink, the glow fading to orange, then red, then dim ash. The warmth softens, then disappears. Darkness returns. The lions roar again in the distance. The insects resume their chorus. You shiver, curling in on yourself. For a moment you wonder if you imagined the whole thing, this miracle that turned night into day. But the ashes remain, and with them the memory. You wake the next morning, stiff but alive. The sun rises. The world looks ordinary again. Yet nothing is truly the same. You carry the memory of light in the dark, warmth against the cold, safety in the circle of flame. You will seek it again. You will follow smoke when you see it. You will wait by the edges of burned land, scavenging roasted animals left behind. You will learn, slowly, that fire is not only destruction, it is survival. Generations pass. Again and again your kind approaches flame, fearful, curious, drawn. Some are burned, some are killed when the blaze grows wild, but always the memory persists. Always the lesson is carried forward. That flicker on the horizon means something more than danger. It means possibility. Think of how many nights unfold this way. Endless nights across thousands of years. Night after night the world darkens, and somewhere in the distance something glows. Your ancestors sit and watch, eyes reflecting firelight, hearts thudding, minds slowly reshaping themselves around a truth they cannot yet name, that this strange living thing may one day be theirs. And perhaps, as you lie here now, you realize that the story of humanity could not be told without this first moment. This moment of standing before fire, not controlling it, not yet, but watching, waiting, daring to imagine that it might belong. The wind sighs across the plain, the grasses bend, the smoke rises, thinning into the sky. Somewhere far away, lightning strikes again. Somewhere else, a forest smoulders. The world is vast, restless, alive with sparks. And you, fragile, wondering, hungry, are just beginning to learn what it means to be human in the presence of flame. The memory of that first fire lingers, carried forward like an echo across countless generations. You are still moving through the deep past, but time does not flow here as you usually know it. It stretches and folds, centuries blending with centuries, as if you are walking not through days but through layers of earth, each step sinking into a deeper stratum. You see them again, your ancestors, though they would never think of themselves in such words. Homo erectus, upright man, the walkers of vast distances, the first among your line to stride confidently on two legs, the first to leave Africa's cradle and scatter into the wider world. Their bodies are strong, thick-boned, made for endurance. Their faces broad, their jaws heavy, their brows long and pronounced. Their hands, though rough, carry the gift of shaping, of gripping tools, and around them the world is immense. Forests stretching endlessly, grasslands swaying like oceans, rivers coiling like serpents across valleys. It is here, in this wide expanse, that fire becomes more than a fleeting accident glimpsed on a horizon. It becomes a companion. You walk with them one evening, dusk folding in, predators beginning their slow stir. The air is cool, scented with damp earth and the faint musk of animals. A group of Homo erectus gathers near a cluster of stones. They have carried with them a treasure, not food, not water, but glowing embers wrapped carefully in bark and leaves. The embers smoke faintly, and every few steps one of them leans down to blow gently, coaxing the glow to live on. They cannot yet strike sparks from stone. Not yet. That knowledge lies far ahead, but they know enough to keep fire alive once it is caught. They know to guard it, to share the burden of carrying it, to feed it when it begins to fade. They know that without vigilance, the glow will die, and with it, warmth, safety and light. They reach their stopping place, a shallow cave cut into the rock. The ground is bare, the stone cool beneath your feet. The group sets down the embers, places dry twigs over them, and breathes life back into the flame. Slowly, flickering, fragile, the fire rises. Smoke coils upward, filling the cave with its sharpness. Heat spreads outward in ripples. And now, night is no longer the same. For most creatures, darkness means retreat. The world grows dangerous, uncertain, eyes glow in the distance. The cries of hunters echo across the plain. But for these beings, upright and stubborn, fire makes the night different. Fire pushes back the darkness. Fire makes a small circle where the group gathers, safe, warm, awake. You sit among them. You hear the crack of burning wood. You feel the warmth against your skin, the light glinting in your eyes. Around you, shadows dance against the stone walls, alive and shifting. Someone brings food near the fire, roots, leaves, scraps of meat. The heat softens them, changes them, makes them easier to chew. The group eats together, sharing in the glow. The night stretches on, and something remarkable happens. They do not sleep as soon as the sun vanishes. They remain awake, longer than before. They talk, not in words you would know, but in sounds, gestures, laughter. They share glances, they mimic movements. They pass knowledge hand to hand, face to face. Fire stretches the day, doubling its hours. Fire gives room for story, for planning, for memory. Perhaps you lean back, eyelids heavy, listening to the sounds of these early humans. The murmur of their voices is low, steady, almost like your own breathing. The firelight plays across their features, softening their heavy brows, turning their eyes into glowing pools. You can almost imagine it, that this is where humanity's first stories were born. Not stories as you know them, not yet, but images, impressions, gestures that mimic the hunt, the chase, the escape. Shadows on stone that suggest animals, movements that retell the day's events. Around the fire, memory becomes communal. What one has seen, all can share. What one has felt, all can recall. The night deepens, but fear does not. The lions prowl, yes. The hyenas howl, yes. But the fire's circle holds. Smoke drifts into the night air, its scent warning predators away. The creatures of the dark are cautious. They sense the danger of flame, and so the humans sit, not merely surviving the night, but inhabiting it, claiming it. Fire is no longer just an accident of nature. It is becoming a tool. You notice the way they carry themselves, the way some feed the flames with careful choice of wood, while others keep embers aside in case the fire falters, the way the young watch the elders, learning how to hold burning sticks without letting them consume themselves. You see trust form here, trust that someone will guard the embers, that the fire will be there tomorrow. Imagine the relief that must bring. Imagine knowing that warmth can be kept, that light can return, that safety can follow you into the dark. Fire becomes more than survival, it becomes certainty. The days pass. You follow them as they travel. The fire always carried, always guarded. Sometimes it sputters, sometimes it dies. When that happens, there is mourning, there is hunger, there is cold, but always they seek it again. From lightning strikes, from burning branches left by storms, from smouldering earth after a wildfire, always they return to it, as if drawn by instinct, as if compelled by memory. And slowly, generation by generation, they learn more. They learn that some woods burn brighter, some smoulder longer. They learn that ash protects embers, that bark holds heat, that stones can circle a fire to keep it contained. They learn that smoke drives insects away, that flames harden the tips of wooden spears, making them sharper, stronger. You sit among them as they work a spear near the flame, turning it slowly, letting the wood darken, strengthen. You see the pride in their faces when the weapon feels firmer, sharper. You see how fire reshapes not just food but tools, survival itself. Night after night, the circle of flame grows into something greater. A campfire is not just a source of heat, it is a gathering place, a hearth. Around it, bonds tighten. Around it, the group is defined. Those within the circle belong. Those outside are strangers. Fire creates not just warmth, but identity. And as you listen, you realize something. In the language of fire, humanity is learning to speak to itself. Perhaps you smile faintly, lying there in your bed, knowing how long this moment will echo, because even now, in your own life, a candle on a table, a fireplace in a winter room, a campfire under stars, all carry the same ancient comfort. They carry the memory of these nights. 2 million years ago, when Homo erectus gathered in flickering light and began to discover themselves, the flames crackle, sparks rise, drifting upward, disappearing into the blackness above. Someone yawns, someone laughs softly. The air is thick with smoke, warmth, and the nearness of others. You close your eyes, and for a moment you are one of them, sitting in the glow, safe for the night, carried by fire into tomorrow. You move forward now, into the lives of your ancestors, who no longer only fear hunger, but begin to master it. The hunger has always been the great shadow. Every day, the body demands fuel, and the land does not always yield. Roots must be chewed until your jaw aches. Tough meat must be torn until your teeth loosen. Bitter plants must be endured just to quiet the gnawing inside. Life has always been hard, but with fire, life begins to shift. The flame you carried through those long nights did more than give you warmth. It began to shape you from within, changing the very architecture of your body, the rhythm of your life, the possibilities of your mind. Imagine the moment when one of your ancestors first places a raw root near the coals, just to keep it from spoiling, only to find that the heat transforms it. The fibers soften, the bitterness fades. A tuber once impossible to chew becomes a tender mouthful. The belly sighs with relief, or the moment when meat, held too close to flame, hisses and blackens, releasing a scent that makes every head lift, every nose twitch. A bite reveals a truth. Cooking makes food not only tastier, but safer, easier, richer. You taste it with them. The way the softened root presses gently between your teeth, the way cooked meat breaks apart without tearing, releasing juices sweetened by flame. You swallow, and your body rejoices. Digestion is quicker, smoother, less draining. Energy that once went into breaking down raw food now flows elsewhere, into movement, into thought. Over generations, into the expansion of the brain itself. You do not know this yet, of course. You do not speak of it, or calculate it, or name it. But deep within, your kind is changing. The heavy jaws of your ancestors will slowly shrink, the gut will shorten, the skull will reshape, making room for a mind that can remember, imagine, dream, all of this because of fire. You sit by the fire one evening and watch a child gnaw a cooked bone. The child's face lights with pleasure, a sound between a laugh and a hum escaping their throat. You see how the elders smile at this, an easy meal for one so small, a promise that this child will survive. You realize that fire is not only transforming the strong, but protecting the weak, the vulnerable, the very future. Night after night you watch. Food that once strained teeth now melts on the tongue. Bones yield marrow more easily when warmed. Grains can be roasted, nuts softened. The range of what is edible expands. The land, once stingy, becomes more generous, and around the fire, the act of eating shifts. No longer scattered, each tearing at what they can grab, the group begins to gather, to share, to pass cooked food around the circle. Meals become slower, more deliberate, chewing softens into conversation, if not in words then in gestures, sounds, laughter. Fire brings not only nutrition, but communion. You notice the way hands reach out, not just for food, but for each other. A hand steadies a child's portion. A hand passes meat to the elder who cannot chew as strongly. Fire encourages patience. Fire demands cooperation. The meal is no longer only survival, it is ritual. Back in the deep past, though, it is simpler. You sit in the warmth, belly full, heart slower, smoke curls upward, stinging the eyes, making them water. Shadows dance against the cave walls, long arms, long legs flickering into shapes of animals, of hunts, of things half remembered, half imagined. And you think, as you watch, how even now, in your own world, meals carry this memory. A dinner table, a picnic, a gathering with friends, all still echo these ancient circles of flame. You still sit together, still share, still tell stories while the food softens and the body rests. The fire is not gone, it lives in your kitchens, your stoves, your ovens, the glow of an ember transmuted into electricity and gas. Yet the memory remains the same. Someone hums, a low sound drawn from deep in the chest. It is not song as you would know it, but it is the beginning, a rhythm, a tone, an attempt to capture something felt and share it. The others listen. The fire crackles in answer. The night expands, filled with more than silence. Your body, too, feels different. The warmth seeps into your bones. Muscles soften, relax. You feel safer, not only because predators hesitate, but because your group surrounds you. The fire is a center. The fire is an anchor. You drift towards sleep, eyelids heavy, but even in dreams you remember the glow, the warmth, the taste of food changed by flame. Generations pass again. Fire spreads further through human life. Not every band has it, not every night. There are still long stretches of cold and hunger, still storms that drench embers and winds that scatter sparks. But those who master it thrive. They grow stronger, live longer, pass knowledge onward. You walk with them through forests now. They carry fire into darker places, places where roots grow thick, where meat can be smoked and stored. You see them experiment, leaves dried near the fire, seeds roasted, bones hardened, trial and error, guided by necessity, sharpened by patience. And little by little, your kind grows not only stronger, but wiser. As you sit with them one evening, you notice something else. The way their faces glow in the light. Features softer, shadows gentler. Without fire, night is sharp, filled with fear. With fire, night becomes tender, almost kind. You realize that this glow has been seen by countless eyes before yours, and countless after. The glow of a campfire is one of the oldest sights known to humanity. At times, the fire leaps too high, burns too fiercely. Hair singes, skin blisters, food blackens into ash. There is pain, there are mistakes, but even then they return. The lesson is too important to abandon. Fire gives more than it takes. Fire promises a future no other creature can claim. The meal ends. The group grows quiet, some sleep curled near the warmth. Others watch the flames, eyes heavy but unwilling to close. The fire crackles, breathes, shifts, sparks rise and vanish into the blackness. You feel yourself lulled by the rhythm, the slow cycle of flame rising, falling, renewing itself. It is like breathing, like the pulse of the earth itself. And in this rhythm you begin to understand, fire is not merely a tool, it is a partner. It shapes you as you shape it. It gives you not only heat and food, but time, connection, safety, identity. It remakes your body and your mind, quietly, endlessly, until you are no longer the same being who once stood trembling at the edge of a burning tree. You are becoming human, and all because of fire. The fire has softened your food, warmed your body, lengthened your waking hours. Yet perhaps the greatest change lies not in what you eat, nor even in how you survive, but in what you do once the sun has gone. For with fire, night is no longer only a time of fear. Night becomes a canvas. You sit again among them, your ancestors, the ones who walk upright, who shape stone, who guard glowing embers as if they are infants of another kind. The flames rise, steady now, sheltered by stones, fed with chosen wood. The group huddles close. Beyond the circle, darkness stretches vast and endless. The cries of night animals drift like distant waves. The low cough of a leopard, the laughter of hyenas, the slow beat of owl wings. But within the circle, there is warmth. Within the circle, there is light. You watch their faces in the glow. Eyes glint, brows furrow, lips move. Sounds emerge, grunts, gestures, hums, clicks. Not words as you know them, but not silence either. The fire has given them time to linger together, and in that lingering, they invent new ways to fill the hours. They mimic the hunt of the day, hands shaping spears, arms arcing like thrown stones. They mime the chase, the leap, the moment when prey is caught. Others laugh softly, nodding, remembering. Children clap their small hands, imitating, learning. It is not yet story, but it is its beginning. Around the fire, experience becomes performance. Memory becomes lesson. Fire makes space for memory to live outside the body. It makes space for imagination to take shape. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. The rhythm of crackling wood is steady, like a heartbeat. The voices rise and fall around it, blending with the rhythm. Someone hums again, a sound low and drawn out, like the wind moving through trees. Another joins, higher this time. The two tones weave together, not planned, not directed, but pleasing. Perhaps this is the first song. It is not difficult to imagine how easily fire invites song. Its warmth soothes the body, its light soothes the mind. With bellies full, with predators at bay, there is time to play, to wonder. The flames themselves dance, and the eyes follow, mesmerized. The body relaxes, but the mind wanders. You hum because the fire hums. You sing because the sparks rise. The firelight paints shadows on stone walls. You glance up and see them, long twisting, alive. They leap and shift with every flicker, as though the walls themselves move. One of the group reaches out and gestures toward the shadows. Another imitates lifting an arm, making the shadow stretch into the form of an animal. There is laughter. Shadows become a theatre. The hunt is replayed, not only in gestures, but in silhouettes larger than life. Flickering across stone, the gazelle leaps, the lion prowls, the human stands tall with spear in hand, all shaped by nothing more than firelight and imagination. Here in the flickering dark, story is born. You feel it too. As you watch, you notice your mind drifting, filling the gaps, adding details. You see not only the shadow of a lion, but a lion itself, prowling, glowing, alive in memory. The fire teaches your mind to dream while awake, and so the night passes differently now. Where once darkness meant only fear and silence, now it is filled with voices, gestures, laughter, song. The campfire circle becomes a school, a stage, a home. Knowledge is passed on not only through necessity, but through memory and imagination. The young learn not only what to eat, but how to remember what was eaten. They learn not only how to hunt, but how to retell the hunt, to shape the memory, to teach the lesson. You realize that this is the beginning of culture. Not yet language, not yet art in paint or stone, but the root of it. Fire makes the night a time not only for survival, but for reflection, for connection. You lean back slightly, feeling the warmth on your face, the smoke pricking your nose. Your eyelids grow heavy, yet you resist closing them because the fire draws you in. You understand, in some quiet corner of your mind, that this is the same force that still pulls you toward campfires now, that makes you gather round candles, fireplaces, bonfires. The circle is older than memory. The flames rise and fall. The group grows quieter. Some stretch out on the ground, curling near the warmth. Others remain awake, eyes fixed on the glowing coals. There is safety in wakefulness, safety in the knowledge that someone will keep watch. But there is also comfort in the shared silence, in the slow rhythm of breathing, in the glow that refuses to die. You hear the fire whisper, crackling softly, shifting wood to ash. You realize that its rhythm matches your own body, the inhale, the exhale, the beat of your heart. It is no wonder your ancestors found themselves entranced. Fire speaks in the same language as the body. Time drifts. Perhaps hours pass, though it is impossible to measure. The stars wheel overhead, the moon rises and sets. Still the fire burns, still the group gathers. This is not a single night, but countless nights, stretching across millennia. Each night the circle repeats itself. Each night fire holds back darkness, and humans grow closer to themselves. And as you imagine this endless cycle, you realize something else. Fire creates not only story, but memory itself. For what is memory but a flame kept alive within the mind? What is forgetting but an ember gone cold? Around the campfire, memory is shared, passed from one to another like a stick lit at both ends. Knowledge becomes collective, survival becomes communal. The flames flicker again. The shadows dance. The song fades, but the hum remains. Low and steady. You feel your own breath slowing, your eyelids heavier. Perhaps you let them close for a moment, resting in the warmth, trusting that the fire will keep watch. This is what your ancestors felt, night after night. This trust in flame, this surrender to warmth, this slow drift into dreams, while others kept the glow alive. The fire was not only a tool, not only a weapon, but a guardian, a silent companion that made sleep possible, that made safety possible. And so beneath the endless stars, humanity learned to dream beside fire, to imagine, to remember, to sing, to The night is vast, the flames are steady, The warmth of the fire lingers in your bones, but the seasons turn, the skies shift, the world grows colder. You feel it in the air, sharp and thin. You hear it in the silence of birds that once filled the trees. You see it in the way the land itself hardens, rivers crusted with ice, grasslands rimed with frost. The earth has entered one of its long winters. The ice age presses down. You walk across a plain now, not of green, but of pale whites and greys. The ground crunches beneath your feet, brittle with frost. The wind cuts your skin like a blade, filling your nose with the sting of cold. The horizon is wide, barren, broken only by the silhouettes of giant creatures. Mammoths move slowly across the ice, their woolly coats heavy with frost, their tusks curved like scythes of ivory. Herds of reindeer shift like shadows across the frozen ground. And here, in this merciless world, fire is no longer only a comfort, it is survival. You huddle with them, your ancestors, who have followed herds into this frozen land. Their bodies are wrapped in skins, their breath clouds in the air. The cold presses relentlessly, biting into fingers and toes, numbing flesh, slowing blood. But at the heart of their shelter, fire flickers, stubborn and alive. You draw close as you can bear. The heat stings at first, reddening the skin, but without it, you would not endure. Outside, the wind moans. Snow drifts against the entrance. The world beyond is unlivable, but here, in this small circle of flame, you breathe again. Fire becomes a wall against winter. It dries the dampness from furs. It hardens the sinew used to lash tools. It melts snow for drinking water, turns ice into steam, makes frozen meat chewable again. Without fire, your body would stiffen, your blood would slow, and the endless cold would take you. Night after night, storm after storm, fire is the fragile thread that ties you to life. You notice how carefully they guard it now. Not a single ember is wasted. Ashes are checked, stirred, coaxed for hidden glow. Embers are carried wrapped in moss, in bark, in hollow bones. The group cannot wander far without ensuring that fire comes too. If it dies, they must find another lightning volcano, a rare spark from stone. But such gifts are uncertain, and in the cold, delay is deadly. So the fire is tended like a child, fed, guarded, protected. Its survival is their survival. You watch them prepare food again. The meat of reindeer is roasted slowly, fat dripping, sizzling as it hits the coals. Bones are cracked, marrow warmed, thick and rich, filling empty stomachs with strength. Fish are laid across flat stones, their skins blistering, their flesh turning tender. Even in scarcity, fire makes the land yield more than it would alone. And you notice something else. The fire is not only for warmth and food, it is for courage. In the dark of winter, when the nights stretch endlessly, when the wind howls and snow covers every trace of path, despair creeps easily into the body. The cold numbs not only skin but spirit, yet fire glows defiantly against it. Fire is a promise that the night can be endured, that tomorrow will come. You sit near them as they gather close, pressed shoulder to shoulder. The flames reflect in their eyes, turning weariness into a kind of quiet wonder. They share scraps, they share silence, they share the simple comfort of being alive together. The fire shapes their shelters too. You see caves blackened with soot, hearths dug into the ground, stones arranged in circles to cradle flame. Each shelter becomes a home because of fire. Each place is marked by smoke rising into the cold sky, a signal that life endures here, even in the heart of ice. Outside, the mammoths move slowly, their breath steaming. The saber-toothed cats prowl, wary of venturing too near the smoke. The fire marks a boundary. Beyond it, the frozen world, within it, the beginnings of human society. You realize as you watch that fire gives more than heat. It gives time. In the warmth, hands are free to work. Tools are sharpened. Hides are sewn. Spears are hardened. Ornaments carved. In the long nights with fire's light, they shape not only survival, but culture. Fire becomes the workshop, the studio, the forge of imagination. You see a child trace patterns in the soot on the cave wall, their fingers blackened, their eyes bright in the glow. You see an elder tell a memory with gestures, the flames flickering across their face, shadows dancing on stone. You hear the hum again, low and steady, the song to pass the hours while the storm rages outside. The fire connects generations. It keeps the old alive through winter, keeps the young safe, teaches them by glow and gesture. Without it, the chain would break. With it, the chain grows stronger. And still, fire asks nothing in return but care. A little wood, a little watchfulness, a little faith that the ember will catch, that the smoke will rise, that the flame will hold. You sit and listen to the crackle. You feel the warmth against your chilled skin. You close your eyes, and in that darkness, the fire glows still, steady and red. Outside, the snow falls endlessly. Inside, life continues. This is the truth of the Ice Age, that humans endured, not because they were strongest, nor fastest, nor fiercest, but because they learned to sit beside fire and keep it alive, because they learned that even the smallest flame could push back the greatest cold. You breathe with them, slow, steady, wrapped in fur, cradled by heat. The fire flickers, but it does not die. It is the heart of survival, pulsing against the frozen dark. And so the long winter passes, one night at a time, by the grace of flame. The cold begins to loosen its grip. The world does not thaw all at once, but the seasons shift more gently now. You walk with them through a landscape of grasses that stretch farther than the eye can see. The horizon ripples like an ocean, each blade of grass swaying under the hand of the wind. Herds move across these plains. Antelope, bison, wild horses, dark rivers of muscle and breath. Here, fire becomes something new. Not only warmth, not only light, not only safety. Here, fire becomes a tool for shaping the world itself. You stand among them as they watch the herds. So many animals, swift and wary, impossible to catch by hand alone. Spears help, stones help, but still the hunt is uncertain. Yet someone notices that the herds fear fire even more than they fear spears. The flames drive them, turn them, funnel them. Fire becomes not just an accident of nature, not just a guardian in the night. It becomes a weapon, a guide, a way to command the movement of beasts. The decision is quiet, almost instinctive. A patch of grass, dry from days of sun, is set alight. The flames spread, swift and crackling, the air filling with smoke and heat. The herd stirs, panic rising, bodies pressing together, eyes rolling wide. They move away from the flames, exactly where the hunters wait. The ground shakes with their hooves. Spears fly, shouts rise. The hunt, once desperate, becomes abundant. You smell the smoke. You hear the stampede, the thunder of hooves, the cries of animals driven by fear. You watch the hunters gather meat enough to last, hides enough to clothe the group, bones enough to shape into tools. Fire has turned the scale of survival. Fire has tipped the balance. And when the flames burn themselves out, the land changes too. Where once there was tall, dry grass, now there is blackened soil, warm and bare. But not for long. Soon tender shoots emerge, greener, fresher, sweeter. Animals return to graze, drawn by the new growth. The hunters notice, they understand. Fire is not only destruction, fire is renewal. You walk the plains, With them, season after season, they learn where to burn and when. They learn that the fire clears paths through tangled brush, that it keeps forests from choking the grasslands, that it draws animals back to feed. Fire becomes a rhythm, a cycle. Burn, blacken, regrow, return. The smoke rises into the sky, long plumes drifting like signals. The air is thick with the scent of charred earth, but beneath it lies promise. Insects scatter, predators prowl at the edges, but humans stand at the center, watching the world they have reshaped. For the first time, the land itself bends beneath their will, not just by accident, not just by chance, but by design. Fire gives them power over space, over time, over the very cycles of growth and return. You realize how profound this is. No other creature uses fire this way. Animals fear it, flee it, avoid it, but humans approach, control, release, harness. The flame that once threatened to consume them now becomes the tool that secures their survival. You see them return to burned ground weeks later. Tender grass pushes through the ash. Herds lower their heads to feed. Hunters watch, patient, knowing what will come. The fire has created not only food for animals, but predictability for humans. The land becomes familiar, dependable. Fire has written a pattern into the wild. And in this pattern, humans grow bolder. They burn not only to hunt, but to clear spaces for living, for gathering plants, for easing travel through thick brush. They discover that smoke drives bees from their hives, yielding honey. They learn that insects avoid smouldering fires, leaving them in peace. Everywhere you walk, you see the signs, blackened patches of earth, fresh shoots where flames once roared, paths where thickets once tangled. The land itself begins to carry the memory of human fire. You sit with them one evening, the flames lower now, embers glowing. The air is still thick with smoke from the day's burn. The hunters clean their spears. The children gnaw on roasted meat. The elders watch the horizon, eyes reflecting both firelight and memory. They do not speak of it, but they know. The land is no longer only wild. The land is beginning to be shaped, tamed, rewritten, not by walls or ploughs or cities. Those are far in the future, but by flame. And you think of your own world, where fields stretch in neat lines, where roads cross the earth, where lights glow at night. All of it began here, with these first burnings, with the decision to set grass alight and watch the herds run, with the knowledge that fire could change not just the body, not just the night, but the land itself. The smoke drifts upward, joining the stars. The embers crackle softly, steady, alive. You close your eyes, breathing the faint sting of ash, feeling the warmth against your skin. Fire has become more than survival. Fire has become a way to shape the world, and the world will never be the same again. The flames die down. Smoke drifts in thin ribbons over the plains, carrying with it the scent of charred earth and scorched grass. The fire that roared yesterday has left behind silence, blackness, a landscape that seems empty and ruined. Ash clings to your skin as you walk, fine and soft, lifted easily by the wind. The ground is dark, brittle beneath your feet, crunching where roots once stood tall. At first, the land looks dead. The grass is gone, the brush erased, the trees scarred, the silence is heavy. You wonder if this place will ever breathe again. Yet you remain, waiting, watching, because humans have learned something profound. Fire destroys, but fire also prepares. Days pass, then weeks. Rain comes, falling gently, soaking the blackened soil. The ash dissolves into it, mixing, seeping down, feeding the ground in ways you cannot yet name. And then, almost quietly, life returns. You notice it first as a faint green, fragile shoots pressing up through ash. then more and more. The black plain softens into a haze of green. The plants that emerge are tender, bright, rich with nutrients. Animals appear again, deer lowering their heads, bison grazing, birds flocking to feed on the insects drawn to the new growth. The hunters watch with knowing eyes. This is what they expected, what they waited for. The fire has not only cleared the land, but renewed it. The earth, scorched and emptied, has become fertile once more. Ash is not an end. It is a beginning. You kneel and press your hand into the soil. It is warm, still holding the memory of flame. The plants that grow here are stronger, fresher, richer. The cycle is clear. Fire devours. Fire clears. Fire nourishes. Fire gives back more than it takes, if you are patient enough to wait. You sit with them as they gather shoots, roots, herbs from the regrown land. The food is tender, easier to eat, more plentiful than before. Children carry handfuls of green, elders smile as they chew. The fire has created abundance. In time, the people come to see this not as accident, but as pattern. They learn to trust it, to depend on it. They burn not only for the hunt, but for the promise of renewal. Each fire is both ending and beginning, destruction and gift. You watch the seasons turn. Fires blaze in summer, rains fall in autumn, fresh shoots rise in spring. The rhythm is steady, predictable. Humans begin to mark their lives by this cycle, to remember when to burn, when to gather, when to hunt. Fire becomes a calendar, a keeper of time. But it is more than that. It is also a teacher. As you walk the land after a burn, you notice how animals return first to the new growth, how herds follow the cycle, humans follow them in turn. Fire has tied together earth, animal, and human in one great rhythm. It is not only a tool, it is a thread that weaves life together. You notice something in their eyes as they watch the regrowth, a kind of reverence. Fire is not only power now, not only necessity, it is mystery. How does something so fierce, so destructive, lead to such abundance? How does death give birth to life? Around the fire at night, they gesture, they hum, they speak of it in the only ways they know. They treat fire with caution, with awe. Embers are not left carelessly. Flames are not ignored. To lose fire is to lose life. To mishandle fire is to invite ruin. The people learn respect. You sit with them in a clearing. The night is quiet. The stars sharp above. The fire burns low, steady. An elder draws a hand through the ash, letting it sift between fingers. They smear it on their skin, black streaks glowing faintly in the light. Others follow, pressing ash onto their arms, their faces. The act is slow, deliberate. You realize it is more than play. It is recognition that what the fire consumes, it also gives back. That ash is not waste, but gift. Perhaps this is the birth of ritual. Perhaps this is the beginning of seeing fire not just as tool, but as sacred. You listen to the crackle, you smell the smoke. The air is thick with meaning, though no words exist to explain it. You only know, as they know, that fire has bound itself to the human story. The cycle continues for generations. Fires sweep across the land, leaving blackness, then greenness, then herds, then abundance. Humans follow, burn, wait, gather, hunt. In time, the land itself changes. Where fire is used, grasslands widen, forests retreat. The shape of the world bends under the rhythm of flame, and through it all, humans remain in awe. The fire is dangerous, too much, and the land is ruined, homes destroyed, lives lost. Too little, and the land chokes, becomes tangled, barren, lifeless. Fire must be balanced, guided, tended, always respected. You realize that this respect will never fade. Even now, in your own world, fire still carries this duality, terrible and beautiful, destructive and life-giving. Forests still burn, and afterward, new growth still comes. The cycle has never ended. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. The smoke lingers in your lungs, the warmth on your skin. You hear the quiet hum of night voices, the crackle of wood, the slow rhythm of the fire. You feel the weight of time stretching behind you and ahead of you, endless cycles of burning and regrowth. Fire destroys. Fire renews. Fire teaches that nothing ends forever. The fire burns low tonight. Its glow is softer, the flames smaller, curling around the edges of the wood. Smoke rises slowly, drifting upward into the dark, dissolving among the stars. The group sits quietly, their faces lit in orange and shadow. You sit with them, listening to the crackle, feeling the warmth on your skin, and you sense that something more is happening here. Something beyond the body, beyond hunger, beyond survival. For fire is no longer only a tool, it is becoming something sacred. You watch an elder lean close to the flame. Their hands are rough, their skin marked by years of work and weather. They hold a branch, charred at one end, glowing faintly. They lift it, not to feed the fire, not to carry it elsewhere, but to draw shapes in the air. The glowing tip leaves trails in your vision, lingering like lines of light. The others watch silently, transfixed, as if the fire itself is speaking through the elder's hand. The smoke thickens, someone throws green leaves onto the flames, and the fire hisses, releasing a cloud that rises like a veil. The air fills with a sharp scent, bitter and sweet at once. The people close their eyes, breathing it in. Their shoulders relax, their breaths slow. It feels less like smoke, more like breath of another kind, rising toward the sky. You realize this is ritual, this is prayer. There are no words yet, not in the way you know them, but there are gestures, sounds, rhythms. Someone hums, deep and steady, a note that vibrates in your chest. Another adds a higher tone. Together the voices weave like smoke, rising, dissolving. The fire answers with its own rhythm, crack, pop, hiss, sigh. It is easy to see how the people begin to think of fire as alive. It moves, it speaks, it eats, it needs care, and in return it gives. It dies, and it is reborn. No wonder it feels like a spirit, a companion, a power greater than themselves. You see them treat it with reverence. They do not step carelessly across the embers. They do not let the fire die without effort. They feed it, guard it, respect it. To let fire vanish is more than mistake. It is failure, dishonor. The night deepens. Someone rises, carrying a burning stick to the mouth of the cave. They lift it high, letting the light spill out into the dark. The world outside is black and silent, but the fire makes a beacon. It pushes against the void, declaring, "We are here, we endure." And in that act you feel it. Fire is symbol. It is more than warmth, more than survival. It is identity, hope. Generations pass, and the reverence grows. You see fires lit not only for meals, but for meaning. A new child is welcomed with a flame kindled fresh. The dead are laid near embers, smoke rising as if carrying breath back into the sky. Storms are met with fires built high, as if to speak back to the thunder. Everywhere you go, fire is central. The hearth is not only the heart of the home, it is the heart of belief. The group gathers not only for warmth, but for connection to something beyond themselves. Fire kicks the thread between earth and sky, between living and dead, between human and divine. You watch a group in the dawn. The sky is pale, the air cold. They kneel by a fire that has burned all night, carefully feeding it with dry wood, blowing gently to coax the embers. Their faces are solemn, intent. When the flames rise again, there is a murmur, a sound of relief, of gratitude. The day begins, not with the sun, but with fire. You think of how deeply this will echo. In far futures, sacred flames will burn in temples. Eternal fires will be kept alive by priestesses, by keepers, by guardians whose task is holy. Smoke will rise with prayers in every corner of the world. Fire will become symbol of gods, of spirits, of creation itself. But here, at the beginning, it is simple, a group around a fire, smoke rising, breath shared, awe unspoken. You sit among them breathing the smoke, hearing the hum, watching the glow. You feel it too, that fire is more than flame. It is mystery. It is presence. It is a reminder that the world is alive, that destruction and renewal, death and life, are one and the same. Perhaps you smile faintly at the thought, because even now, in your own life, you know this feeling. A candle flickering in a dark room, a bonfire on a beach at night, a lantern held against shadows. Fire still carries that same hush, that same awe. You still feel its pull, its quiet command to pause, to breathe, to remember. The fire crackles softly, sending sparks upward. They drift, vanish, reappear in your vision as stars. You realize the people around you may see the same sparks becoming stars, stars becoming fire, a cycle that ties earth to sky. And so night after night, fire becomes prayer, fire becomes ritual, fire becomes sacred. You breathe deeply, the smoke lingering, the warmth steady. You let your eyelids lower, heavy with the rhythm. The fire hums, the voices fade. The night is vast, the flames eternal. The fire burns steadily, but the world around it is never steady. The climate shifts, slow and immense, like the breathing of the earth itself. You do not notice it in a single day, nor in a single season, but over lifetimes the cold that once pressed down begins to loosen. Glaciers retreat, their vast bodies creaking and groaning as they withdraw. Rivers swell with meltwater, carving new paths across the land. Grasslands spread, forests return. The shape of the world is changing, and you walk with those who must change with it. You feel it in the air. The winds that once cut with icy blades are softer now, carrying the scent of wet soil, of green growth. The sky is different too, less heavy, less grey. The seasons lengthen, shift, surprise. Winters are still cruel, but summers grow warmer, longer. The rhythm of the earth has quickened. Your ancestors follow the changes. Where ice retreats, they move. Where grasslands grow, they wander. Where rivers carve new valleys, they settle to drink. And always, fire goes with them. Fire is constant in a world of change. You walk into a valley newly freed from ice. The ground is raw, scarred, littered with stones dropped by retreating glaciers. Streams rush fast, water clear and cold. Plants push upward, tender shoots where once there was only frost. You kneel, touching the soil. It is dark, rich, eager for life. The people light a fire here, small at first, coaxed from carried embers. The flames rise, crackle, cast their light against the valley walls. Smoke curls upward into the evening sky, mixing with the mist of rushing streams. Fire marks the land as human. This place, once barren, now holds warmth. Yet the climate is not always kind. The warming does not come evenly, nor predictably. Some years are lush, green, abundant. Others are harsh, dry, brittle. Rains fail, rivers shrink, herds wander far. Then winters return with ferocity, burying valleys in snow, freezing rivers solid. The earth is restless, and the people must be restless too. You see them huddled around the fire in lean years, chewing roots roasted to softness, grateful for even the smallest warmth. You see them celebrating in good years, flames leaping high, meat roasting in abundance, voices raised in hums and songs. Fire steadies them through both, when the earth gives generously and when it withholds. It becomes clear that fire is more than constant. It is anchor. The seasons may swing wildly, but the fire always burns. The ice may retreat, but the hearth remains. The storms may rage, but the ember endures. You notice how carefully they adapt. In times of warmth, they build fires to cook and to gather, but also to clear land for plants, to draw animals back. In colder times, they huddle closer, feed the flames with every scrap of fuel, carry embers for days across frozen ground. Fire is flexible. As they are flexible, it bends with the earth's moods, and yet even as they adapt, they begin to wonder. You see it in the way they look at the flames during storms, or as rains sweep across the plains, or when snow falls heavy on the world. The fire glows steady, unchanged. It is as though the flame belongs to a different order of things, neither ice nor warmth, neither storm nor drought. It endures when nothing else does. One evening, as you sit among them, you hear thunder in the distance. Lightning flashes, striking a tree on a hill. Flames leap upward, fierce and wild. The people point, murmuring, watching as the storm rages and the fire spreads. And then they turn back to their own hearth, their small circle of flame, steady and tame. It is as though they see both faces of fire at once, wild and divine, small and human. The climate shifts again. Forests grow thicker, stretching across hillsides. Fire changes with them, no longer only on plains. Now it is used to open paths through dense trees, to keep clearings wide, to prevent the forest from swallowing all. Fire is a tool of balance, of negotiation with the land. You walk with them into these forests. The canopy is high, the air dim, filled with the calls of birds. They carry torches, their smoke curling upward, keeping insects at bay. The flames flicker against tree trunks, painting shadows that move like spirits. Fire makes the forest passable. Fire makes the forest livable. But fire also threatens. In drought years, flames escape, racing through undergrowth, leaping tree to tree. Smoke fills the sky. Animals flee in panic. The people run. Entire landscapes are transformed in hours. And yet even then, the people return. Because when the fire finishes, the ash feeds the soil. New growth begins. Life returns. The lesson repeats itself over and over. Destruction is not the end. Renewal follows. Fire is teacher of resilience. You pause, standing at the edge of one of these burned forests. The trunks are black, twisted, skeletal against the sky. The air smells of ash and char. At first it seems lifeless, but at your feet, green shoots already push upward. Birds return to perch on blackened branches. Small animals scurry through the ashes. Life waits only for the fire to pass. The people notice too. They gather seeds from the regrowth, roots from the softened ground. They follow the herds that return to graze on tender shoots. They learn patience, the art of waiting for fire's aftermath. And slowly, through all these changes, the human story is shaped, not by ice alone, not by warmth alone, but by the constancy of fire in the face of change. You sit with them by their hearth, smoke rising into a twilight sky painted red by the sun. The air is cooler tonight, but the fire steadies it. You feel the heat on your skin, the glow on your face. You listen to the soft sounds, crackling wood, murmured voices, the hush of the earth around you. The climate may shift, the world may change, but here in this circle of flame, There is continuity. Fire is always here. Fire always speaks. Fire always waits. You breathe slowly, eyelids heavy. The flame flickers. The smoke rises. The stars wheel above, eternal. And you know, through every shift of the earth, fire will remain the heartbeat of humanity. You lift a coal from the hearth with a stick and hold it cupped in the night, and the path appears, not all at once, not like a road carved in stone, but as a suggestion, a flicker on bark, a gleam on river skin, a glow that says forward, you do not rush, you do not need to. The ember is patient. You walk at the pace of breath. You have known valleys that freeze and fields that burn and forests that fold over themselves with green. But there is a tug in you now, the quiet pull that has always lived in your kind, the wish to see what lies beyond the next ridge, the next water, the next wind. The world is opening. The ice loosens its hold in one place and tightens in another. Rivers change their minds. Coasts lengthen and then drown. And in your hand a coal remembers home, but asks for a farther place to rest. You set out with others. Shoulders brush. A woven cradle of bark protects the ember from gusts from sudden drizzle. When it dims, someone leans and breathes, lips pursed, eyelids lowered, as if singing heat back into being. When it brightens, the group murmurs, a small sound, but it lifts the chest. You keep moving. You follow water first. A river never argues. It shows a way even in the dark. You learn its bends by the way firelight catches on eddies, by the scent of wet stone, by the low talk of current against driftwood. At night you heap damp grass near the edge of the hearth, so smoke rises thick and stubborn, a sour veil that drives insects away. You sleep with the smoke on your skin and wake without bites. You thank the coal with a pressed palm of gratitude you do not name. When you meet a seam of cliffs, you learn the rock by torch. The resinous branch sputters and flares, then steadies into a small sun cupped in your hand. Walls lean inward, close and cool. The flame throws animals out of shadow, horns and hooves in the mind's eye, then gathers them back again. In cracks of stone you find safer ledges for feet. In deeper hollows you find windless niches where a lamp can keep its peace for hours. A lamp, a shallow stone filled with fat, a wick of bone-fine fibers. It is a quiet thing, a pool of fire that rides the breath of caves. You learn to carry it low, to shield it with a palm, to read its trembling when a draught reveals a hidden passage. You do not name this reading, you call it listening. The path swerves to the open again. Grasslands bow under wind and the horizon is a hinge that keeps moving away as you approach it. Night travel becomes a craft. Torches are bound with pitch and fibre so they burn longer. Pine pitch warms by the hearth, tacky and fragrant. Someone kneads it with ash so it hardens into thread. So points and handles keep faith with one another. Fire is glue as much as blaze, a way for two things to become one. You reach coasts you have not seen before, flat spans of wet mirror at low tide, dark shoulders of reef lifting out of the sea. The water speaks in tongues you are only learning, hiss of sand, clack of shells, the far thump where a swell spends itself against stone. Fire changes its speech here. On shore it is beacon. On water it becomes star, taught to ride the night in bowls of clay or in curls of bark, sealed with resin. You push reeds into the shallows, twist them into cords, twist cords into mats that float, lash them tight. On these you cross what you once thought could not be crossed. An ember comes with you in a scooped stone, ash tamped over its breath. The sea wind tests you. Someone shields the coal with their own hands, trusts the skin to bear what cannot be lost. You learn the tides by flame as much as moon. When the lamps burn lower faster than they should, you know wind is coming when they gutter and then steady. You know the channel is opening wider below you. In the hush that always follows a safe landing, the fire is built quick and low behind a driftwood windbreak. The first smoke is sharp with salt, the second is sweeter, carrying the clean oil of fish sizzling on hot rock. It is You move along coasts for seasons that feel like lifetimes, pulling shells from stone, watching birds mark the places where water hides. Fish. You leave midden heaps where you pause long enough to call a place by a sound. You learn headlands by the way a beacon shows against them. On clear nights the land itself talks to you. Small fires far downshore, smudges against stars. You answer with your own small sky on the beach. Through darkness you and distant kin speak in blinks and pauses, in brief bright sentences the wind carries. Beyond these shores the world breaks into patches of land and water, a necklace of islands scattered across shining straits. The distances are not cruel if you respect them. You practice the old crafts until they feel like nowhere. You bind rafts closer, carry firepots that will not drown, strip bark in long skins that you bend and lash into boats that answer better to chop and gust. You smear seams with fat warmed until it runs and glows. You know when to leave, ear to the ground for the tremor of a change in wind, eye to the turning of cloud ribs, fingertip to test the softness of moss that tells how the air has been leaning. You trust the water's faces and the fire's moods both at once. When a new island rises out of haze, your torch feels heavier. You land in mangroves that smell like iron and honey, your ankles painted by roots. Smoke here is not only for insects and drift spirits, it is for trees. The forest is quick to take back every path, every clearing. You meet it with careful burning, with narrow lines of flame that thread between trunks, with old rain-wet logs that smoulder instead of leap. A day later the ash is cool enough to touch, and a week later green is under your feet again, bright as a bird's wing. You understand that the old rule holds even where the sea changes every border. Burn and rest, rest and grow. In these islands you meet other fires you did not lay. On high slopes, small plumes in the distance write their columns in the afternoon. Think pale, then thin to nothing by evening. For a long time you only watch, your fingers playing the edge of a coal, the weight of decision pooling in your wrist. Then you approach, slower than slow, voices like yours weave out of the trees. A child points from the shelter of a taller body. Your torch lowers in your hand without thinking. So does theirs. The quiet is a bridge you both know how to cross. When you share flame, you share names without sound. The word is older than language. Belonging. You keep going. The old home, its rivers, its stones you can still taste with your feet, lives behind every new scene like a handprint under layers of paint. But the sky here wears different birds, and the night sounds taste new. The ember always knows what to do. Windward, you shelter it. Leeward, you lift it to test for hidden gusts. In rain, you make a cave from your body and bark and patience. In heat, you set it aside and let it breathe alone a while. The coal is a child and an elder, both a thing to be carried and a thing that carries you. The land grows colder again where you go next. Grass thins to lichen, trees scrawl shorter against the sky until they are only shrubs hugging their own shadows. The air tastes of iron and far snow, lakes deepen into silence. Here the fire changes shapes. You build it low and long, a trench of coals you can sleep beside without painting the night with more light than you need. You learn fuel like a liturgy, the driftwood that has swallowed a century of salt, the knotted silver of roots lifted by Thor, the bone of the great beasts whose ghosts still stampede in your ribs. Fat keeps lamps alive as much as wood does. You render it carefully, stirring with a stick until the pot shines, cooling it until it yields to thumb and then resists. Wick becomes a craft all its own, moss twisted and dried, hair braided fine, fibers peeled from tender bark. Each has a different light, a different smoke, a different way of going out. You walk where land and sea have shaken hands and agreed to hold for a while, a bridge of earth that takes months to cross and then is gone a lifetime later. The wind here is a teacher with a hard manner. It tests every knot, every lash, every ember you think you have buried deep enough. You learn to sleep behind snow walls, to bank coals under thick blankets of ash. So morning rises from inside the ground. Breath hangs in air like frost lace. The lamp croons in its stone cradle. Inside your furs a day brightens without sun. In that wide place between worlds, you spend more time remembering. The fire helps you, its voice in the night, sometimes a hiss like rain on leaves, sometimes a pop like distant hoof, brings old places closer. You speak them in rhythm, the names, the bends of river, the rocks that look like faces, the leaning tree that showed you where the deer lay down. All of them return in the order flame allows speech to find. Children learn the path by the sound you make, while poking coals into lines on the ground. You draw with char on skins that will not last a human life, but long enough to show the way past one winter's mischief. When you reach other edges that drop from poor soils into older oceans, you read water again as if it were a book you left in a safe place. The coasts here are harder, the kelp thicker, the birds' entire night's worth of noise. The lamps love the fat of seals and birds. The fire adores driftwood that has forgotten its own tree. You are not the first to learn the trick of hugging shore as a road. Others have done it. Their ashes under this sand, but you are among the first this season, this swing of climate and chance, and that is enough. There are nights when all you can see are two fires, one in the boat, one on land. Between them is a slick black quietly muttering yes, and you say yes back with your shoulders. You land to the hush that always follows a choice well made, and before your feet stop measuring new sand, the heart of the camp is already breathing, small, careful, downwind of whatever thing sleeps here with teeth. At the edge of flame, someone's hands darken with soot. It is a sign you have arrived everywhere and nowhere at once. You keep a different pace inland. Rivers are partners until they turn to rapids and say no. Then you listen. Fire teaches patience. It has never rushed in its life. In forests that wear fog, every morning, you burn only what you must. Small rings to breathe in, narrow lanes to pass. You carry a coal in a closed hand over slick logs. When you slip, you lift the hand before the rest of you has decided what to do. The skin holds the memory of every burn you prevented and the few you did not. The scars are maps. They tell stories without words. If someone asks, they will not. You curl your palm and say quietly, "Here is where we failed and did not stop." There are places where sky opens into stone mouths, and the earth itself descends into a darkness that feels older than water. You are not going down there yet. That journey waits for another night, but you learn outside those mouths how to make light that crawls the length of a tunnel without shouting. Small flames steadied by fat, a deliberate pace, pauses that let smoke fold in front of you so you can read the draft. All of these become the grammar of a new kind of seeing. Down there someday hands will leave marks whose ash is kin to the ash on your fingers tonight. For now you practice waiting at thresholds. Across all these crossings, fire stays what it has always been, work and wonder. You feed it feeds you, you guard it watches. You learn the smell of danger in a sudden leap in its throat. You learn the comfort of its belly when the sky itself has nothing to give. And because it makes place wherever it rests, you do not feel lost when you move. The hearth is portable. Home is a circle of orange that you can set down on any soil and call by any old name you like. You begin to time your leaving by coals rather than by sun. When the embers hold a certain kind of red, when they no longer speak with sparks but glow like the eye of a patient animal. You know it is time to cover them and go. When you arrive, you read the wind with your cheekbone, test a twig's dryness with your teeth, and listen to the complaint the new wood makes when kissed by brand. If it sings sharply, you lay it aside for a wetter night. If it sighs and accepts, you build the tripod and the trench, and the wall you can curl against while the world circles around you. There are jokes too, dry as tinder. The elder who always pretends to blow too hard and showers everyone with ash. The cousin who lights a green stick because they like the hiss and then watches insects dance through the smoke like small stars. The child who insists on keeping a single coal alive from one river bend to the next, cupping it as if it were the last warmth the world would ever know, only to fall asleep with fingers smudged and a grin that says they did it. They carried tomorrow. Your feet know new soils. The first is gritty and volcanic. The second is fine as flour. The third is a damp dark that holds the shape of your heel after you lift it away. In each, the hearth prints differently. In sand, it is a shallow saucer the tide can't reach. In dust, it is a darker question mark that the wind reads and answers. In forest loam, it is a gentler stain the mushrooms visit when no one is watching. You move on. The ash stays to talk to the next rain. What you notice as these paths lengthen is how the fire changes your memory of fear. Night animals still complain beyond the edge of light. Winds still choose to be rude. Water still wants you to learn its temper again and again. But worry is smaller in the circle. You take turns being the one who wakes to feed it, the one who listens for a shift in its voice when wood has burned to coal, and coal to the good deep glow that makes morning feel possible. The watch is not a burden because it is simply another way of hearing the world. Your ears are rested by it. Sometimes in those dawns when flame has thinned thought, you see far shorelines as bruises of purple on the horizon. You know you will go there. Not today. Today your hands want to gather, your shoulders want to rest, but soon you will pack the embers as if packing a promise. You will shoulder water, meat and the few things that ask to be carried for the sake of memory. A shell whose spiral feels like an old story, a flake of glassy stone that once was the edge of luck, a stick darkened half its length by the lamp it rode for a month of storms. None of these will change the way the crossing behaves. All of them will make the shore feel like a place you've known before. You realize that this is how the world becomes small enough to hold. Not by drawing maps, not by measuring stars with string, but by teaching a single flame to make any darkness feel like a room. The kelp road of cold seas, the braided rivers dreaming of the ocean, the inland mats of grass that look like sleeping water under the moon. Each of these joins the others because the same color warms your face at their edges. The ember is a key that opens places until place itself is a habit, not a mystery. No one says this aloud. You do not gather at the hearth and vote to become the people who cross continents. You simply rise when the coal is ready to move and the wind is saying yes, and the child who carried tomorrow yesterday is standing at the edge of camp with hands already suited for the work. You check the cords, you lift the lamp from its little seat and feel its weight, the good gravity of it, the held sun asking only to be fed. You look once at the ash you will leave, a grey signature soft as a breath, and then you turn your face toward a line of light where sky meets water and the day has not named itself yet. You go. The ember goes with you. Behind, a circle cools and blends back into world. Ahead, another circle waits where none exists. Between them is only distance, and distance is only time, and time is just a long, slow bellows that the earth moves in and out, while your small fire learns to keep its own steady breath. In this way you cross seasons and ridges, and straits, and shelves of land that are bridges for a while, and memory after. In this way you learn coasts, the long, slow way. A hand learns a tool, by living with it until it becomes a part of you. In this way, you walk into forests that will one day hold your marks deep under stone. In this way, you step onto snows that forget your name an hour after you lift your foot. In this way, you reach places whose dawn smells unfamiliar until the first meal hisses, and then they all smell like home. You move because the world moves. You burn because breathing asks for warmth. You carry fire because it has always carried you, and under skies you have never seen before, the same old light writes itself on your skin and tells you, without any need for voice, that you have arrived. You carry the fire into darkness now, not the soft darkness of night under stars, not the shifting darkness of forest shadow, but a darkness that swallows everything, a darkness of stone, of caverns, of earth folding inward on itself. At the entrance, the air cools. The light from the outside world fades quickly, the last glow of sun narrowing behind you, until it is only a thin seam of gold. Then it is gone. Ahead there is nothing but black, nothing, until the torch is raised. The flame sputters at first, coughing smoke against damp stone, but then steadies. Its glow stretches forward, revealing walls, slick with moisture, glittering with crystals, rough with age. The shadows lunge outward, huge and strange, every rock turned to giant shape. The flame does not simply illuminate, it transforms. You step deeper. The cave breathes around you. Drops of water fall, echoing like drums. The floor is uneven, slippery in places, dry in others. The air is heavy, filled with scents of smoke, mineral and ancient damp. You feel small here, smaller than under the sky, because the darkness presses in from every side. But the fire answers. The torch is a sun in your hand. Others follow, each carrying their own flame. Together you form a constellation, small fires floating through the blackness. The cave comes alive in pulses of orange and gold. With each step, the walls shift, appearing and vanishing, alive with shadow. Then, on the walls, something more, marks, lines, shapes. At first faint, then clearer as you bring the torch closer. Animals, drawn in ochre and charcoal, stretch across the stone. A horse, mid-gallop, a bison, horns lowered, a mammoth, tusks, sweeping wide. Their forms flicker as the firelight dances, making them seem to move, to breathe, to live. You hold your breath. It is as though the fire itself has freed them, pulled them from stone into being. The cave is no longer only rock. It is story, memory, dream. You walk slowly, torchlight moving across walls, alive with figures. Some are clear, bold strokes of paint. Others are faint, fading into the rock, as if drawn long ago. The people who made them are not here now, but their hands remain. You see the marks of palms pressed to stone, dark outlines left by blowing pigment over skin, hands across time, reaching. The fire makes them visible. Without it, there is only black, silence, void. With fire, the animals run again. The hands appear again. The world is reborn in light. You realize that the cave itself was chosen for this. That darkness is not a prison, but a canvas. And fire is the brush. The group settles near a wide wall. Torches are fixed in cracks, flames casting their glow across the chamber. The people sit, gazes lifted to the painted creatures. Some gesture toward the animals, miming hunts, miming movement. Others hum, low, rhythmic, voices echoing against stone. Fire transforms the chamber into theatre, into temple, into dream. You sit with them, transfixed. The shadows of your companions mingle with the painted animals, blending past and present. A hand moves in front of the torch, and suddenly the bison seems to leap. The horse seems to run. The flame animates everything. It is not difficult to imagine why they came here. Fire outside gives safety, warmth, food. Fire inside gives something else. mystery, story, spirit. The animals painted on the walls are not just memory, they are invocation. To paint them is to bring them closer. To light them is to make them real. You feel the hush in the chamber. This is not casual. This is ritual. The flicker of fire is prayer. The shadow is offering. The painted beast is promise. The hunt will come. The herds will return. Life will continue. Fire makes hope visible. The night deepens, though you cannot see it. Time vanishes in the cave. There is only the glow of flames, the sound of humming, the breath of people gathered together. Some sleep, curled against the walls, the fire warming their faces. Others remain awake, staring into the painted eyes of animals, as if searching for guidance. You close your eyes too, and for a moment you see the flicker of shapes not drawn on stone, but rising in your mind. Fire teaches imagination here, as it has always done. The shadows are stories, and you are the listener. Generations pass in this way. Again and again, people return to these caves. Again and again, they light fires, they paint, they hum. Ash gathers on the floor, a carpet of burnt wood and time. The walls become layered with images, new animals painted over old, hands overlapping hands. The cave becomes a library of flame, and yet, each time, the fire is necessary. Without it, the library is locked. Without it, the animals vanish, the hands dissolve, the memory dies. Fire is the key, the reader, the voice that brings the silent stone to life. You realize that this is more than survival. This is art. This is culture. This is the beginning of the human mind reaching beyond need into meaning, and fire is at its heart. Outside, the world continues to change. Ice retreats further, rivers shift, herds wander. But inside the caves, the fire holds steady. It makes the unseen visible, the past present, the dream real. You walk back toward the cave mouth, torch held low. The air grows cooler, fresher. A faint line of light appears ahead. Step by step, the outside world returns. First a glow, then a sky, then the full expanse of stars. But you carry something different now. Not just the coal, not just the flame, but the memory of the painted animals moving in firelight, the knowledge that humans can create worlds within the world, the understanding that fire does more than warm the body. It awakens the mind. You breathe the night air, smell the smoke still clinging to your skin. You look at the stars, their light steady, ancient, and you realize the fire you carried into the cave is the same fire carried into the sky, flame below, flame above, memory and dream joined. You close your eyes, the world hums, the fire waits. The fire has shown you its power in caves, painting shadows into life, teaching imagination. But when you step back into the open world, you see that fire also shapes something quieter, more enduring, more human, the ways people live together. You return to the circle of flame. It is familiar now, the low crackle, the rising smoke, the glow that touches every face. Yet if you look closely, you notice that the fire does more than warm bodies and cook food. It weaves bonds, it teaches sharing, it demands trust. Imagine the ember carried across a day's walk. One person holds it in a bark bundle, blowing gently when the glow falters. The group depends on this one ember, on this one pair of hands. Without it, the night will be colder, darker, harder. Everyone knows it. And so, without words, a chain of trust forms. Today you carry the fire, tomorrow it may be me. Each must guard it with care, because all depend on it. This simple task changes everything. Fire cannot be hoarded like a root hidden in a pouch, nor clutched selfishly like a piece of meat. It is communal by nature. A coal too small for one still warms many. A flame shielded by two hands protects all. Fire teaches cooperation simply by existing. You sit by the hearth at dusk. Someone feeds the flames with wood gathered earlier. Another stirs coals to cook roots. A child brings a branch, proud of the offering. Everyone contributes, in ways, small or great, because the fire accepts only constant attention. Neglect it, and it dies. Attend to it together, and it thrives. The meal begins. Meat roasts, roots soften, marrow bubbles in the heat. But notice how it is shared. No one can cook alone. The fire is central, and so the meal is central. A piece is handed to an elder whose teeth are worn, another to a child whose stomach growls. Even the strongest hunters wait their turn. The fire has slowed the chaos of feeding. Around it, eating becomes ritual of patience, of fairness. The glow of the hearth reaches further than the food itself. After the meal, the group lingers. They could scatter into the dark, curl into furs, sleep early, but they remain in the warmth. They sit in the circle, watching the flames, listening to one another. Some hume softly, some gesture, some laugh quietly at small jokes. And this lingering bonds form that are not only of survival, but of kinship, affection, belonging. You realize that the fire is shaping time itself. It extends the day, stretches it into hours of connection, where once darkness sent all to silence, now there is evening, a new time, carved out by flame, and in that time, people grow closer. Trust deepens too. You see it in the way they leave the hearth to sleep, knowing others will tend the fire. You see it in the way someone offers food to another, expecting nothing in return but the same one day. The fire makes them interdependent. No one alone can keep it, but together it endures. And when strangers approach, fire becomes boundary and bridge at once. The glow marks a camp from afar, warning and invitation alike. A stranger who comes near must be tested. Do they sit at the edge of the light, respectful? Do they offer wood, food, gesture of peace? If so, the fire accepts them, and the group accepts them. If not, they remain outside the glow, shadow beyond shadow. Fire defines who belongs. You sit at one of these meetings. A stranger group appears at the edge of light. Their faces are wary, their bodies tense, but they carry embers of their own, cupped carefully. Slowly they step closer, extending the glow. The two fires meet, sparks drifting upward together. The tension eases, flame speaks a language both understand. You realize to share fire is to share peace. Over seasons, over generations, this sharing grows into ritual. Fire is exchanged at marriages, binding two families. Embers are passed between groups in friendship. Flames are joined during gatherings of many bands, the smoke rising like a single breath. Cooperation is not just choice, it is necessity, taught by fire. Even conflict is shaped by it. When anger rises, when voices clash, the hearth holds them together. No one storms into the dark. No one risks leaving the warmth. Disputes are argued around firelight, where faces are visible, where silence falls heavy. Fire forces confrontation to become conversation. You lean back, listening to the murmur of voices. They rise, fall, soften. The flames crackle between them, steady, impartial. Fire does not take sides, but it creates the space where sides must be spoken, where resolution must be found. And in that glow, something else takes root. Story, not only memory of hunts or dangers, not only gestures of animals or shadows on walls, but true story lessons shaped into form, repeated, remembered, retold. Stories told not because they must, but because they bind. Stories told to comfort children, to honor ancestors, to explain the mysteries of storm, star, and death. The fire becomes not only hearth but stage, not only kitchen but library. You sit as one of these stories is told. The elder gestures toward the flames, voice rising and falling. The firelight flickers on their face, deepening the lines, making their features part human, part spirit. The listeners lean forward, eyes wide. The fire breathes life into every pause, every wordless sound, every leap of shadow. The story is not separate from the flame, it is born from it. And so the bonds grow stronger. Cooperation is no longer only about food and warmth, it is about meaning, memory, identity. Fire has given them a reason to stay together beyond survival. It has created community. The night deepens. The fire burns lower, embers glowing. Some sleep, some keep watch, some dream by the fading light. But even in silence, the bond holds. Even in sleep, the trust endures, because the fire, even low, is still alive, and with it, the circle of togetherness remains. You breathe slowly, eyelids heavy, feeling the warmth on your skin. You realize that the fire has taught your kind not only how to eat, not only how to see in darkness, but how to belong. The ember glows, the smoke rises, the people breathe as one, and humanity, gathered around flame, becomes more than scattered beings. Humanity becomes us. You have seen fire as gift, as teacher, as companion, but every companion has moods, every teacher has punishments. The same flame that warms and binds can turn, swift and merciless, into an enemy. It begins small, as it always does, a spark carried too far from the hearth, a branch too dry, catching faster than expected, a wind that changes suddenly, fanning flames outward. You watch the fire leap beyond its circle, no longer gentle, no longer contained. At first there is surprise, then fear. The flames run across grass, greedy, crackling, louder than voices. Smoke thickens, choking throats, blinding eyes. The group scatters, grabbing children, clutching what little can be carried. The fire devours everything else. You stand at the edge of it, heat pressing hard against your skin. Sparks lash into the air, whirl away on gusts. Trees groan as they catch, sending showers of embers into the night. The fire has no circle now, no boundary. It is a beast loose, feeding on whatever lies in its path. The land transforms in hours. A shelter of branches collapses into glowing ruin. Stored food blackens into ash. Tools are swallowed, stones cracked by heat. The ground itself glows red in patches, as if the earth has caught fever. You see the terror in their faces. Fire, once trusted, now betrays. It takes without giving. It threatens not only hunger, but death. Hair singes, skin blisters, lungs burn with smoke. To live with fire is to live with risk. Yet even here, lessons remain. The survivors learn to respect boundaries more carefully. They learn which woods leap too high, which sparks travel far, which winds betray. They build hearths with stones, dig trenches, bank coals under ash. They teach children not to play too near. Pain becomes memory, and memory becomes wisdom. Still, the danger never vanishes. Some nights the fire catches roofs of huts, furs, stores of food. A single mistake can undo weeks of labor. Some days the land itself conspires. Drought dries the grass, lightning strikes and flames roar across valleys, swallowing all in smoke. You walk through such a valley after the blaze. The ground is black, smoking. Trees stand charred, their bark cracked, their branches skeletal against the sky. The silence is deep, broken only by the hiss of cooling embers. It feels like the end of the world. But you know from earlier that this is not the end. Weeks later, green shoots will push through ash. Herds will return, Life will renew. Fire destroys, but it also prepares. Even in disaster, the cycle remains. For humans, though, the lesson cuts deeper. Fire is not tame. It cannot be mastered fully. It must always be respected, always feared a little, always tended with caution. To forget this is to invite ruin, and so rituals of safety grow. Fires are lit smaller in dry winds, larger in damp seasons. Hearths are dug deep, stones piled high. Embers are watched through the night, never left untended. Each group passes these habits on, not as rules but as instincts. Over generations, they become law written not in words but in survival itself. You sit with them one evening after such a fire. Their shelter is gone, their food lost, yet the hearth is rebuilt. Flames rise again, cautious, smaller than before. The people sit close, silent. No one laughs tonight. They stare into the glow, each remembering what was taken, yet still they light it. Still they gather, because even after betrayal, fire is necessary. To turn from it entirely would be death. That is the paradox they live with. Fire is both savior and destroyer. It gives life, and it threatens it. To live with fire is to walk always on a narrow path, balancing fear with trust. You realize this paradox has never left humanity. Even now, in your own time, fire burns forests, cities' homes. It devours, it rages, it destroys, and still you keep it, still you need it, still you tend it, because without it, life would unravel. You close your eyes, hearing the crackle of the smaller, humbler hearth rebuilt after loss. You feel the heat, cautious but steady. You breathe the smoke, bitter yet familiar, and you understand. To live with fire is to accept risk, to accept that every gift carries shadow, to accept that survival is not only about what you control but about what you endure. The embers glow. The people sit together, silent, chastened, but alive. The fire burns on, neither friend nor foe, but both. And so the lesson of danger becomes part of the story too. The danger of fire never leaves you, yet neither does its promise. You carry both together as the world itself begins to change more quickly than ever before. The long age of ice loosens its grip. The cold still lingers in some places, but elsewhere the air softens, the land thaws, and waters rise. What once seemed eternal begins to shift, and humans must shift with it. You feel it first in the air. Winters shorten, springs arrive sooner, rains fall heavier. The ice sheets retreat, groaning and cracking, rivers swelling from their melt, valleys open where glaciers once ruled, rich with new soil, dark and fertile. But floods come too, sudden and fierce, carving away paths, drowning lowlands. The earth is restless, unsteady, unsettled, and through it all, fire remains at your side. You walk with them across the new land. The ground is wet with meltwater, the grass is lush, animals grazing in abundance. The herds grow larger, following the greening plains. Fire becomes less about survival in bitter cold, and more about abundance. Management, balance. Fields are burned deliberately to make way for tender shoots, to draw animals near. In these new landscapes, fire is no longer only protection, it is cultivation. But the climate is fickle. One year is generous, another harsh. The warmth brings storms unlike those known before. Rains flood hearths, winds scatter embers. In some seasons the sun blazes too fiercely, grass drying until a single spark can turn fields into infernos. Fire is harder to control now, both more useful and more dangerous. You sit with them after a storm, their hearth has been drenched, smoke rising weakly from sodden wood. They crouch low, blowing gently, coaxing life back into the coal they saved under bark. At last, a spark, catches. At last, flame rises again, relief softens their shoulders, for even in a world of shifting weather, fire restores what is constant. The end of the Ice Age brings more than new climates. It brings new ways of living. Some groups begin to linger longer in fertile valleys, returning season after season. The hearth becomes more permanent. Stones stacked carefully, ash layering deep. Fire is no longer always carried from place to place. It is kept, guarded, returned to. The hearth begins to anchor, not just nights but lives. You notice the difference. Around a fixed fire, tasks divide more clearly. Some gather wood each day, others prepare food, others guard the flames. Children are taught how to feed the fire properly, how to stir embers, how to bank them safely. Fire becomes not just shared, but organized. The hearth is no longer only a circle of survival, it is the heart of a household. But instability remains. Floods sweep valleys, droughts crack the earth. Animals migrate differently, sometimes vanishing altogether from places where they once thrived. And each change tests the bond between human and flame. You see groups forced to flee rising waters, carrying fire with them on rafts, embers wrapped carefully in moss. You see others pushed into drier lands, where fire is both salvation and threat, giving warmth at night, but threatening to consume everything by day. You see the tension on every face. Fire is needed more than ever, yet harder than ever to control. And so rituals deepen. People gather at dawn to greet the hearth, feeding it before they feed themselves. They gather at dusk to give thanks as flames rise against the dark. Fire becomes rhythm, anchoring the chaos of shifting climate. It is the one constant in a world that refuses to stay still. You sit in such a gathering. The group hums low, swaying as flames rise. Smoke drifts upward, carrying scent of resin, of herbs, of offerings placed gently in the coals. Children lean against elders, eyes heavy, lulled by the crackle. The fire glows steady, a heartbeat of light in an unstable earth. And you realize fire is more than survival now. It is memory. It is identity. When land changes, when animals vanish, when waters rise, the fire remains. It holds the story of who they are, even as everything else shifts. But the dangers grow too. Great blazes sweep across new forests, lightning igniting dry wood, winds driving flames for miles. Humans flee before walls of fire, smoke choking lungs, heat blistering skin. Entire valleys are blackened. Villages turn to ash. These are not small mistakes by careless hands. These are forces of climate itself, vast and unrelenting. You stand in the aftermath of one. The sky is grey, the land charred, the air thick with ash that settles on your tongue. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by the crack of falling trees. Yet even here, amid destruction, humans rebuild. They clear embers, gather stones, light a new hearth from surviving coals. Fire has betrayed them, yet they return to it. They always return, because in the end, fire is not enemy, nor friend. It is partner, a partner that demands care, respect, caution, and reverence. A partner that offers life and threatens death in the same breath. And to live in a changing world, humans must learn to live in balance with this partner, never forgetting its power, never abandoning its gift. You sit by the fire as the night cools. The stars wheel overhead, clear after the storm. The embers glow red, steady. The people breathe in rhythm with it, calm now, safe for a moment. You close your eyes, knowing that even as the earth shifts and seasons falter, the fire remains. It is constant. It is fragile. It is eternal. And through the great crisis of climate, fire is what keeps humanity human. The world grows warmer still. Glaciers retreat into distant mountains. Valleys open, rivers swell, plains turn green. Where once people wandered endlessly, chasing herds across ice and grass, now some begin to pause. They find places where soil is dark, where rivers give fish and waterfowl, where plants return season after season, and in these places, fire changes again. You see it first in the hearth, no longer only a small circle scraped into the dirt, no longer only a bundle of embers carried from place to place, but something larger, steadier, more deliberate. Stones are stacked carefully, forming walls that cradle flame. Ash deepens in layers, year upon year, until the hearth itself becomes memory written in grey. Fire, once a traveller, has learned to stay. You sit beside such a hearth. The flames burn brighter, steadier than those of wandering camps. Smoke rises through a hole in the roof of a hut built of poles and reeds. Its air warm, its floor dry. The hearth does more than warm bodies now. It warms walls, defines space, makes inside different from outside. For the first time, a place feels not only like shelter, but like home. Around this fire, tasks divide more clearly. Some gather fuel each morning, walking further now to bring back wood. Some tend coals through the day, cooking roots, drying meat, heating stones that will later warm sleeping mats. Others prepare food, grind seeds on stone slabs, roast them in pans of clay, hardened by flame. Fire becomes the center not just of survival, but of daily rhythm. Children grow up with the hearth as constant. They learn to crawl toward its warmth, to fear its edge, to stir its embers carefully with sticks. They hear stories beside it, fall asleep in its glow, wake to its smoke. Fire becomes the first teacher, the first companion, the first boundary every child knows. And in this steadiness, community grows. Families build their homes near one another, each with its own hearth. At dusk, smoke rises in many plumes across the valley. A village of fires, a constellation of warmth against the cooling air. Each hearth is separate, yet together they make a pattern, a shared life. You walk among them at evening. The air is filled with scents, meat roasting, bread crackling on hot stones, herbs smouldering in the flames. Voices murmur, children laugh, dogs bark at the edges. The glow of firelight spills from each doorway, golden against the night. The village feels alive, not only with people, but with flame itself. The hearth is no longer only for survival, it is for identity. Each family guards its own fire, feeds it, shapes it, but at times fires are shared, one hearth relit from another after going out, one family's flame lending strength to a neighbor's. Fire ties the community together in bonds stronger than blood. You sit at a gathering. The central fire has been built larger than the rest. Stones circling wide, flames leaping high. People sit all around, many families together. Food is cooked in abundance, meat turning on spits, pots of seeds bubbling into porridge. The meal is shared widely, stories told, songs hummed. The central fire becomes not only a source of warmth, but a heart for the whole village. And slowly, something new appears, memory anchored to place. When fire is carried, memory is carried too, but it is light, fragile, always moving. When fire is kept, hearth after hearth in the same valley, memory deepens. Children grow where their parents grew, watch the same smoke rise where their ancestors watched. The hearth becomes inheritance, permanence, hope. You notice how fire shapes tools as well. Clay placed near the flames hardens into vessels that last longer than baskets or skins. Stone heated and cooled fractures into sharper blades. Bitumen warmed becomes glue to haft tools more strongly. Fire becomes not only companion, but maker, transforming what the earth offers into new forms. And beyond tools, fire shapes imagination. Flames are tended with care, their colours studied, their sounds remembered. Sparks rise like stars reminding people of the sky. Smoke drifts upward, carrying prayers. Embers glow long after flames die, teaching patience. The hearth becomes symbol as much as tool. Yet even here, in the steadiness of settlements, fire remains both gift and danger. Huts burn if flames leap too far. Crops are threatened if sparks fall in fields. Villages are sometimes lost to accidents, one roof catching, then another, until all is ash. The people rebuild, but the lesson never leaves them. Fire must always be tended, respected, never taken for granted. Still, the bond deepens. You see women baking flatbread on stones heated by coals, the air filled with warm nutty scent. You see men hardening spear points in flame before the hunt. You see children playing with sticks of ash, drawing shapes in the dirt, learning the rhythm of tending. You see elders leaning close, eyes bright in the glow, telling stories of floods, hunts, ancestors, always beside fire. The hearth is more than centre of the home. It is centre of memory, of ritual, of identity. Without it, the house feels empty, silent, incomplete. With it, the house breathes. At night, you walk once more through the village. Fires glow in every doorway, smoke drifting lazily upward. The stars shine above, eternal, but below, another constellation has been born, flickering, human, alive. Fire, once carried across endless plains, has become rooted, permanent, the heart of settlement itself. You pause, breathing the smoke, feeling the warmth on your skin. You realize that fire has done more than keep humanity alive. It has given humanity a place to belong. It has turned wandering bands into villages, shelters into homes, circles into communities. The hearth glows, the smoke rises, the village sleeps, safe in the arms of flame, and humanity has taken its first step toward a settled world. The hearth glows steady, but as you gaze into its flames, you begin to see more than warmth, more than light, more than the nearness of home. You see memory you see the shape of everything that came before. Embers of forests burned, sparks of torches carried across rivers, shadows dancing on cave walls. Fire is no longer only survival. It is legacy. You sit with them as evening deepens. The meal is finished. The children drowsy, the night calm. The hearth is not roaring now, but glowing, red and steady. Coals shifting with quiet sighs. Someone stirs the embers with a stick, and sparks drift upward like stars returning to the sky. The people watch, silent, as though seeing more than tasks, seeing stories rising, ancestors whispering, gods listening. For fire has become story itself. Myths gather around it like moths. Some say fire was stolen from the sky, a gift torn from lightning or sun. Others say it was carried from the belly of the earth, a treasure guarded by spirits. Some believe it is alive, hungry, needing to be fed with wood, with offerings, with prayer. Each flame tells a story. Each ember carries a voice. You hear one such tale tonight. An elder leans forward, eyes glowing in the light. They speak of a time before fire when darkness ruled, when cold gnawed at bones, when beasts prowled unchallenged. They tell how fire was found or stolen or given, and how it transformed the world. The listeners lean close, children wide-eyed, adults nodding slowly, remembering. The story is not just entertainment, it is memory made sacred, truth carried in myth. And so fire becomes part of identity not only in life, but in thought, in imagination, in the stories that shape who people believe they are. Fire is woven into origin, into destiny, into the explanation of why the world is as it is. You see the rituals that arise, a flame kept burning always in the center of the village, never allowed to die, a fire lit at births, at deaths, at harvests, at hunts, smoke rising with prayers, sparks carrying hopes into the sky. Fire is more than element now, it is messenger, boundary, bridge. And in these rituals, people find reassurance, for the world is still uncertain. Storms still come, floods still rise, droughts still wither, but fire is constant. Fire is presence. It ties them to ancestors who once sat by flames in caves, to wanderers who carried coals across seas, to families who gathered in huts with hearths glowing at night. Each fire is not only itself, it is every fire before it. You feel it, too, sitting here. The warmth on your face is the same warmth felt 2 million years ago. The smoke in your lungs is the same smoke breathed by those who painted bison on cave walls. The glow in your eyes is the same glow seen by children who fell asleep in furs beside embers. Fire is thread through time, binding every life together. You walk through the village one last time. Fires glow in doorways, smoke drifting lazily upward into the night. You hear the murmur of voices, the soft crackle of flames, the sigh of wind carrying sparks. The stars shine above, eternal, but below another constellation burns, human, fragile, flickering, yet enduring. You pause, looking at one hearth. The family within sleeps, faces peaceful in the glow. The fire burns on, steady, guarding them. You realize that this is the true gift of flame, not only warmth, not only food, not only safety, it is continuity, it is memory, it is the assurance that even in darkness, even in uncertainty, something endures. And so humanity carries fire not only in hands, not only in hearths, but in hearts, in minds, in stories. Fire becomes symbol of spirit, of creativity, of resilience. It is no longer just what humans use, it is what humans are. You sit again, the last embers glowing. The night is quiet, the world vast, the fire small yet infinite in meaning. You breathe slowly, eyelids heavy. You realize that this is the end of the journey, not the end of fire, not the end of humanity, but the end of this wandering through ages. The ember glows, the smoke rises, the story lingers, fire remains. And so humanity, from the first spark to the last hearth, is forever a creature of flame. The fire has carried you across so many ages, from the first spark glimpsed in fear, to the torch that guided long migrations, to the hearth that anchored the first homes. You have walked through ice and flood, through forests and plains, through caves where shadows danced into story, and always beside you the flame has glowed. Now the embers soften, their crackle fades to a low whisper, like breath itself. Smoke rises faintly, drifting upward, then dissolving into night. The circle of fire that once roared so bright becomes gentle now, a quiet pulse in the dark. You feel its warmth lingering, not only on your skin, but within you. The memory of flame is carried in your body, in your breath, in the steady rhythm of your heart. Every ancestor who tended fire, who passed it hand to hand, lives in you. Every ember, carried forward, is alive in this moment. You are part of the same long glow. The night around you deepens. Stars shine above, far and steady. The air is calm, the world at rest. There is no need to follow further, no need to keep watch. The fire will continue, even if you sleep. The story will continue, even if your eyes close. Let yourself drift, gently, like smoke rising. Let the warmth soften your body, your thoughts, your breath. The embers will keep glowing in silence. The ancestors will keep tending in memory. The world will still be here when you wake. For now, There is only calm, only rest, only the soft glow of a fire that has always been and will always be. Good night. Sweet dreams.